and fought over it at times, I suppose. Where it's just phenomenal. It's totally inner peace. It's hard to explain. You'd have to come inside and stay here for a while and just experience what it's like living in a home. And Ken can understand what I was talking about when I was building my home. He can now only understand it.
That's true. You don't realise it until you get in there yourself and start picking up a chainsaw and actually doing the work yourself. Then you can realise how much enjoyment you can get out of it. It is a hell of a lot of hard work. I mean, we worked at it, well, everyone worked at it 6 days a week, and I was even at it on Sundays myself. But it was all worth it when you finally can sit down and look around you and know that you're going to be living here for a long time yet.
And I guess the first, most obvious question is, why build a log house anyway?
Main reason for building it, I guess, would be the energy efficiency of it. We've done a lot of research on it. My friend Neil Butler has already built one in Chamberlain's. And the logs themselves act as more or less a radiator to help keep your house a lot warmer than a conventional home.
Could you just explain that a bit?
Well, the size of the logs we're using are an average of approximately 10 inches in diameter on the average, and that manages to store the heat. On a warm day, the logs will warm up on the outside, and they generate the heat throughout the house. As the sun goes down, those logs will stay warm through the night. They'll actually stay warm for up to 2 days, even in the middle of the winter. So this property of the wood, where you're using such big logs, they tend to keep the house a lot warmer as your heat goes off or what have you, so you don't need to use your heat as often. The main reason we picked this location was to let the people in St. John's and Newfoundland see a picture of a real house, real log house. Most people here in Newfoundland have not seen a house built using this method, so we decided to put one right in the center of town so everyone would see one and really get to know that a log house is as energy efficient and as economical as any conventional house that you can build. Neil built his house up in Chamberlain's. It's in the perfect location. He's completely surrounded by trees, and there's nobody seen it. We didn't even get any publicity on it. Here and Now did a small show on him, but not to the extent that people came in and really had a look around it. So by putting it in the middle of town, we've got plenty of publicity. You guys were interested in doing a show on us, and we think it's really served a purpose by putting it in a highly visible area.
Neil, what got you interested in building log houses?
Well, in the beginning, myself and my wife always wanted to have something different when we got married. So we looked through various books, and we were going to buy a modular home or a cedar home. But a friend of mine introduced to me log houses. And at first I thought, log houses, log cabins. But then he showed me books and literature on the idea, and I became very interested. And over a period of a couple of months, I came in contact with an instructor that works out of Ignis, Ontario, and I arranged for a short course to be put off here in Newfoundland. So that went off pretty good. I had a 2-week course. So we started building my own home, myself and my wife, and on occasion Ken came up. And then one day when I had, say, 70% of the log work finished, Ken realized, hey, this is pretty nice. So he decided to have one built on his lot here in St. John's. So to make a long story short, I guess, we looked at the idea. This is a nice form of housing. So we decided to try to make a business venture out of it. And so this is how we became to have what we got today, basically. And then Ken, of course, when I learned the skills off Paul McNabb, which is the instructor out of British Columbia, out of Ontario, I should say. I taught Ken as we went along. Ken, learned as we went along, and is up to the same standards now as I am.
Financially, across Canada, there are over 200 companies building them using this method, as well as using other methods, such as prefabbing them, like running your logs through a mill. But all those companies are doing really well on the mainland, and it just hasn't caught on here in Newfoundland yet. So by putting one here in the middle of the city and exposing the log house to as many people as we can, we're hopefully going to generate enough interest here that people in Newfoundland will accept them as a good form of housing, and hopefully we'll be in business to stay for a good many years.
But regarding the finances, we can completely build a log home where you turn the key and move in for approximately the same cost as a conventional home, which is approximately $50 a square foot. That's completed. Or we could also build just a log shell. That includes all your log work up to the top of the walls, including your roof trusses, and your interior ceiling beams, and your windows and doors are cut out and electrical holes drilled for approximately $25 a square foot, which is quite economical, and it's within grasp of the average working family or anybody else for that matter. I'm a commercial artist by trade, and I have the ability to draw homes and floor plans. And what we do is encourage the customer to come in and work alongside two of us here and put in what he wants down on paper. And that way the customer would feel part of the home, and he'd have an input or say in the floor plan or what he wants. I mean, we'd encourage that, so that way the customer acts as if he's a part of the home.
We can also build to a set of conventional house plans. If a person has their own house plan that they like, whether it's a bungalow or two-story or whatever design they have, we can pretty well build out of logs the same as a conventional house. There will be some minor changes that will probably have to be added or taken away from the original plan, but basically it can be done either way from our own plans. This house here was completely our own design. We just figured out exactly what we wanted in the house, what I wanted in the house, where it was built for me. And between myself and Neil and the other two guys that were working with us, we all had a say in the way it was going. And then we just picked the best way that we figured would work.
This is not exactly a traditional city house. Did you have any problem getting a permit from City Hall to build it in St. John's?
No, I didn't. The permit was actually pretty easy to get. I applied to City Hall for the permit, and what they wanted to do was to put it through a meeting of the residents of the area, just to see if anybody would object to it. So I went around to most of the residents in the area here and talked to them, showed them my house plans and everything, and they were all for it. Actually, when they had the meeting at City Hall, there was only one person showed up besides myself, and that was Cyril Barmack next door to me, and he was all in favor for it.
Now, I suppose the question that a lot of people would wonder is financing. What about the banks? How do they react when you come in and say you're going to build a log house?
Well, the banks were a different story. My own bank that I deal with turned me down. They didn't want to get in touch or in any way at all with a log house. So I ended up going to pretty well every major bank in St. John's, and I was turned down at all of them. The savior of it all was Jack Sargent at Newfoundland Building Savings and Investment Limited. He and his wife had already built a log house for themselves in Terra Nova, and he was really familiar with them. He did a lot of research on them, and the fact that he's been living in one now for the past 2 or 3 years meant all the difference. He approved my money the next day for me. No problem at all.
I guess a lot of people would be pretty impressed by the size of the logs you're using. They're larger, much larger than the logs we see on the Avalon Peninsula. Where did you get them?
We had to bring our logs in from central Newfoundland. We had a couple of guys out there cut them for us. It wouldn't be worth our while to cut them ourselves because of the fact that we'd have to look for the logs out there ourselves. We didn't know where to get them actually in the woods. So it was much cheaper to pay somebody else to buy them for us, and we just hired a truck then to bring them back to St. John's for us.
What are you looking for in a log, and what specific sort of characteristics?
Well, the logs we're using in this place are spruce and fir. Either one will do. They had to be very straight. The straighter the log, the easier it is to scribe it out. We can use crooked logs. Some of the ones in here do have bows in them, but you have to just position the log in the right position in order to get a good scribe on it.
Let's talk a little bit about the preparation of the logs. Once you get a log, what do you do with it?
Well, immediately when you get the log, we had to peel it, and it's all peeled by hand with an old-fashioned draw knife, and that isn't a job itself. You have to get the log perfectly clean in order to use it. First of all.
Why is that? Is that just for looks?
Well, it's primarily for looks, and it's also in order to get an accurate fit, you have to have a good clean surface in order to describe the logs. And, it's just something you do. You don't leave the bark on because it attracts insects, for one thing. It causes rot. It traps moisture, so it is like a sponge. The bark is, so you get rid of the bark, and you use the bare log, the naked log.
You mentioned rot. Is that a problem with an all-wood house like this? How do you protect against that?
They protect the inside. Well, the inside pretty well protects itself once you have the roof on it. One way, there's several ways of combating rot. The best way is to have large overhangs on your roof. Keep it off the ground, like any house. Have a good foundation, and the types of preservatives that are on the market today, they're after going back to the water-based preservatives, which are the best. And once you follow those outlines, the house will pretty well last for hundreds of years.
You look like you have a very tight fit between the logs. It's impossible to see daylight through them and so on. How do you get that fit?
That's what you call a Scandinavian scribe. It's achieved through a set of scribers, and the logs are put on top of each other and marked exactly with a scriber. And what it does exactly is mark the contour of the bottom log exactly to the top log, the bottom of the top log. So you take out the wood that's marked, and you achieve a near tight fit. It's so perfect that you can't slip a piece of paper in between the logs anywhere, on the average.
Do you have to use any caulking or anything else like that to tighten up the seams?
Well, there's you can use caulking, but in between that groove that we cut out in order to get the fit, the scribe, we use fiberglass. We put fiberglass in that groove to take up any air space and for added insulation and soundproofing. And if you want, you don't have to, but if you want, you could use just a thin bead, a quarter inch of caulking on the outside or inside, which would adds insurance to the house as far as air tightness goes.
You've mentioned some of the tools that you use, and I imagine the tools that you use in this house would differ quite a bit from what's used in a traditional kind of frame house. What do you use?
Well, our basic tool, of course, is a chainsaw. That speeds up production. It gets rid of most of the wood, the rough wood. Only the rough work is done with the chainsaw, except for slabbing. All our floor joists and roof trusses are all those beams are all slabbed with the chainsaw. You snap chalk lines and slab. But the most important tool, I can say, that we got is the scribe. Without the scribe, you cannot. It's impossible to achieve such a good fit as in this house here. And besides the scribe, it's all axe and chisel work. The rough work is done with a chainsaw, but all the finish work is all done by hand with axe and chisel. Excuse me. So it's pretty well handcrafted.
These logs are really heavy. How do you get them elevated to such heights, even for the top of the walls here?
Well, to the top of those walls there now is approximately 13 feet. Well, in the beginning, we tried to put down a few rounds by hand, and it got so, practically wiped us out. So we went down and got a hold of a man down in Portugal Cove, Barry King, and we got him to make us up a lift out of using old car parts, and it was quite remarkable. The thing can lift the rear end of a dump truck. And so far, we are lifting about 1,500 to 1,600 pounds with the machine, and it can lift up to 17 feet into the air. It's quite a machine, It saves a lot of time and a lot of fatigue and a lot of wear and tear on us too. So we don't do no lifting hardly at all.
Neil, I suppose a couple of obvious questions are, how do you hide the wiring and also the plumbing?
Yes, they're asked quite a bit. From the beginning, we have to plan where our wiring is going to go to, and our electrical holes and our outlets. So we have to pretty well plan those out right from the beginning. And all the logs have to be pre-drilled. Where every wire, every outlet is going to go. So all the wire basically runs through the logs that are pre-drilled. We're using a big power drill. And the plumbing, now of course the house is going to settle 3/4 of an inch per foot over the next several years. So the plumbing it's going to be hidden inside frame walls, and also it cannot be connected to any part of the log work for the log work to come and settle around it. So you have to it's quite a bit different. You have to use expansion chambers and a few other different methods, but plumbing is pretty much the same. It's just it cannot be connected to anywhere part of the superstructure or the log work of the house, only inside frame walls.
Could you just explain a little more about drilling the holes for the wires? Are they drilled along the full length of the log?
No, they're just drilled down vertically through the logs as they're laid. The wiring for the house we brought in through the basement, and it'll be drilled, and the logs are drilled down vertically through the logs, and so you have to pretty well line up the holes exactly above each other. The holes are approximately 2 inches, so the wiring is brought up through the log, not through the length of the log, because if you did that, of course, the settling would have disrupted. So it's brought up vertically through the logs.
You mentioned the settling again. Then, why is the house going to settle so much?
Well, the logs we're using in this house were grown just 2 months ago. Some of them were, and still in the woods, and they're pretty well green. So you can imagine the moisture content that is in the log. So as the log dries out, each individual log will shrink. If a log is 1 foot in diameter, that log, when it's finally shrunk to its final position, it'll be approximately 3/4 of an inch smaller than it was originally. So it'll be about 11¼ inches. So you can imagine in each wall, there's numerous logs, and each log is on the average of 10 to 12 inches. So each log is going to shrink approximately 3/4 of an inch. So as the logs shrink and the weight pushing down, it's going to settle. So you really do have to allow for that, and that's the reason why we're going to have header spaces or settling spaces over our windows and over our doors, and especially over our uprights in our house where we got the jacks to let as the walls come down, the inside floor, we had the jacks on, so we'll lower those as the years go by.
With the wooden sinks, what I did, I drew the shape of them out with a pencil, just drew the shape around it on the block. Then I took my chisel and just scored the line all the way around so I wouldn't tear the surface of it. After I did that, my chainsaw did the heavy work. I marked my depth on the chainsaw bar so I wouldn't go through the wood out to the bottom, and just carved it out, the shape of the sink with the chainsaw. After I finished that, my gouge took care of getting the rest of the wood out of it. Then I had to start finishing it, sanding it down. First of all, I used a mini grinder that took most of the heavy wood out of it, or the heavy sanding. And finally, it was about 2 hours work by hand to get the smooth finish on it. After we did all that, I had to drill out for the fixtures. And once the fixtures were in place, I had to coat it with 15 coats of clear finish. I used Fabulon for the clear finish. And I've been using it for 2 months now, over 2 months, and it's worked perfectly. There's been no leaks in it, and it certainly suits the house a lot more than a conventional sink would have.
What will be the selling features of a log home? What makes a log home attractive to other people, do you think?
I think the main reason people would be interested in it is because of the look of the house. A lot of people these days are looking for something different in a house. Sure, you can't find too much different around here these days in a log house. There are not too many of them around. And also the energy efficiency of them, the fact that the log house can be a very energy efficient home.
They recently did tests on the mainland on the fire factor, it's called, and they discovered a log home has a 2-hour safe haven. It can burn for 2 hours without being fought, and the logs would still retain 80% of their strength. In other words, it wouldn't collapse. A log house doesn't have the toxic fumes as a regular home would have if it was burnt, such as your drapes and your wallpaper and your manufactured materials. So it's not as a deadly killer. Also, if that was if it's any concern to some people as far as fire and toxic fumes go. It's much easier to combat as well. Like Ken mentioned, it's just a matter of spraying the walls almost, with your water or your whatever you're using, and it's much easier to combat.
There's no hidden place for your fire to spread into. The fire is going to be wherever you can see it. You can get your water to it if you did have such a problem. Not like you'd have to worry about with a conventional house. Even a day later, the fire could spring up again because of some embers could be burning inside your walls. So it would be just a lot easier to put a fire out in a log house as well.
There's no hidden chimneys like interior walls for the fire to act to funnel or channel through. I mean, you're talking about a solid wall, solid 10-inch, 12-inch thick wall, and the fire's got to burn from the outside in, not from the inside out.
Okay, since I've moved into the house, found that we've already talked about how warm the house is and energy efficient, but it's also a very relaxing house to live in. Most people have told me, I built it in the wrong area of town. I should have had it on the outskirts and that. But once you come inside the house and you sit around and have a coffee or what have you, the feeling of being in here surrounded by logs and that is just the same as if you're in the country. The wood stove here, you can open the door so you have just your fireplace burning there. Your logs are shown, same as a regular fireplace, and you get the smell of wood around the house. And it's just the same as if I've been out in a pond somewhere and just come inside for the night. You're inside anyway. And it's just total relaxation. You can't get that same feeling in any other type of house, I don't think.
There's not really that much we would do differently, because this is the basic. This is the best way to do it. But I think as far as slabbing logs for the second floor ceiling beams and for roof trusses, I think we probably would set up some kind of a mill using a chainsaw, where we could just run the chainsaw without having to snap chalk lines and start planing with your chainsaw and chisels. We'd set up some kind of a mill, an Alaskan mill basically is what it is. It runs on a track, and it speeds up production and speed of the slabbing of the logs tremendously.
I think another thing that I would like to change to the house too, I'd rather have another interior log wall, like this wall inside right here. I would have liked to have another interior log wall on the other side. It adds more to the look inside of it. It takes a bit longer to build it, but it also adds even more strength to the house, the more interior walls you do have.
One thing that we would do differently if we had to build another home like this, instead of putting 14 feet of log work, which takes a tremendous amount of energy, we'd probably put a 9-foot wall and put a 12-12 pitch roof on the house instead of an 8-12 pitch roof, which a 12-12 would still give you an awful lot of headroom upstairs. That's the only big thing that I would do differently regarding another home. It's not that this is wrong to do. It's just that using a 12-12 pitch roof and 9-foot walls is a lot more economical.
I think the banks would look more favorably at it now, seeing as how there's already one here in town. CMHC does approve log home construction. They have a booklet out offering their guidelines and whatnot, so the CMHC financing is available. We can arrange the financing through our own dealer. His name is Jack Sargent with Newfoundland Building Savings and Investment. He built a log home himself, so he's well aware that log homes are very economical, very easy to heat, and they do hold their value for a much longer time than a conventional house. We have some pictures in our books here of log places in Norway that were built in the year 1100 AD, and those churches are still being used over there today.
Were these houses, if we were going to get into the commercial, not if we are going to get into the commercial aspect of log homes, The biggest advantage about a log home is that we can pre-build it off-site, which means that it could save the builder, not only the builder, but the buyer a tremendous amount of money and time, where we could build it in our own site, in a warehouse. We could finish the log work, and number the logs, take them down, and then transport it to the customer's site. Now that could mean only across the street, or it could mean across the island, and it would not affect the price of the home that much. And doing so, and doing that, we could put our production up, probably 30 or 40%. We could probably handle, say, 2 to 3 or probably even 4 houses a year. But that's the maximum that we can handle with the crew we got so far. It's probably three homes a year.
The longer we are at it, the more people we can train. And once we do have more qualified people who can build them for us, then we can build many more houses a year. It just takes time. We're something new here, and we just have to train the people ourselves. Unless we go to bring in people from the mainland, and we're a Newfoundland company, and we intend to stay that way right now. Yes, I am very happy with the house. If I had my time back, I think I'd take another year off work, and I'd even do it again, I think.